Welcome in. On tonight's show, we talk about Auburn's bye week, the benefits. The Tigers went good on good. We discuss how that benefited the Tigers as they prepare for South Carolina. The Tigers had some defensive personnel shifts. We'll discuss the ramifications of those moves. And the SEC West is as tough as ever. How will Auburn fare as this season comes to an end? All of that tonight on Auburn Intel. Welcome in. This is Auburn Intel. Thanks for joining us. Tonight we talk about Auburn's bye week, the significance of the bye week. Auburn went what we call good on good as they took a week off as they prepared for South Carolina, rested, evaluated themselves in the bye week, and Ellis Johnson, the defensive coordinator, said the Tigers went starters on starters. How will that affect Auburn with only 6 games left? The bye week benefits, as we like to call them, guys. What do you see in terms of a bye week? What are the benefits? Player Rob Pate, Coach Jack Crow, what are the benefits of the bye week, and specifically good on good? When you hear that, what do you think?
I think that they're reestablishing some depth chart situations. That's what I think. I think good on good means competition. Competition means depth chart to me. I'll say this, there's 2 things that move a team in any direction. One is gain, the other one is pain. The pain of losing can make you motivated in different areas than the celebration of winning, the gain. And so I think you got a team that's in pain. They ought to be in pain. If they're not if they're not in pain, they're not winners.
Right.
But what they got to do is funnel that into some good decisions, because I think they're making some critical decisions that are going to affect. I think you're going to see it in the depth chart, slowly but surely. It's going to affect how this team turns out, because it's not where it needs to be right now. I don't think anybody associated with this program will tell you we're close, but we're not where this team wants to be or can be.
The benefits of the bye week are, first, going back and looking at yourself, evaluating yourself, seeing what your tendencies are, seeing where you've struggled, fine-tuning the things that you know it's going to take to be successful in this stretch run. Now, when we talk specifically about good on good, that was code for the players of strap it up,
right?
Because you're about to have a difficult practice. Look, they post practice schedules in the locker room prior to practice, so you can see how long you're going to be out there, and you can see what's going to be set up next. And when it's good on good, that's just a completely different mindset. So they're trying to get better fundamentally at the things that are basic to football: blocking, tackling, catching, holding on to the football, those sorts of things. So. That's what they've spent this off week doing, and we'll see how it translates this week.
What does it mean when Ellis Johnson says we want to be a fundamental football team but not an assignment football team? He stressed the fact that they wanted to be a team that was fundamental but tackled and ran to the football and reacted, and they didn't want to be an assignment football team. And he even made the comment that they don't want to get caught up in the chalkboard.
Yeah, it's a mindset. It's a fly around of the football. We don't want to be thinking about our responsibilities. We just want to go be the football player that we recruited you to be inside of this system. Not play outside of the system. That's not what he's saying. He's saying go make plays. Don't worry about making a mistake. Don't look over your shoulder and think we're going to yank you if you do. Just go out there and make football plays. Be aggressive. In my mind, that's what he means.
Well, let me tell you, when a coach walks away from a game and he said we didn't play fast, you know what the next statement is? We're thinking too much.
Right.
Either we don't want to bad enough or we're thinking too much. And the code for we don't want to be assignment football is don't make them think too much, turn them loose and play fast. And that's the code I get from.
He said they were doing too much scout team.
Yeah, well, let me tell you what that means.
Right.
People think scout team, and they think, well, they're just beating up on these poor guys over there. There's not a lot of hitting that goes on in a scout team practice. It's all read, recognition, assignment football. That's what he's talking about. Yeah. He would rather have the mentality of, we're going to go against our best, and we're going to physically challenge you, and that's going to be the mindset we want you to take over on the Saturday. And I think that's just a different philosophical approach here.
They're fixing to turn it loose down there, boys.
They're going to try. Is that what you get out of it?
What I get out of it is they're trying to juice them and turn them loose, which I think right now is when you re-energize your football team. Everybody starts off juiced up.
Right.
But then some people just find the surge.
Like that second wind.
Yeah, that second wind to go ahead and, get on through it and turn it up a notch. And that's what happens when you go through something like what we went through. I mean, we didn't get physically beat. We didn't get morally beat, but we did get beat.
Yeah. When we get back, we're going to talk about the defensive personnel shifts that Auburn took place on another bye week. Some defensive shifts that we're going to talk about and examine what those mean for Auburn moving forward tonight on Auburn Intel. Welcome back into Auburn Intel. This is the segment where we're by the lockers. That means we're breaking down film. The always fun segment. We're going to talk about some defensive shifts, some personnel moves that Auburn has made on the defensive side of the ball. 3 players in particular that we're going to talk about. We're going to show some film and talk about the ramifications of them moving. How does that improve Auburn's defense? And we're going to start with Justin Garrett, number 26, who's moved from star to linebacker and is going to be playing a lot of linebacker now. What do you guys like about Garrett, and what do you think about his move to linebacker? Trying to get him on the field. He's an active player.
Yeah, I think that's what this is all about, is trying to get your best personnel out on the field. And, the fact that Robinson Threese has come in and really locked down that star position, it's opened up opportunities for Garrett to play in other places. And one of the places that we have the least amount of bodies is at linebacker. And I think it allows us the opportunity to be flexible with some coverages. I mean, if we get him in there as the linebacker in a dime set, we essentially now can have 7 defensive backs on the football field, which is going to allow for a lot of different things.
It's going to allow for blitz situations where you can literally match up with whatever is on the field.
Right.
It basically, as Rob's already said, gives you some matchup equality no matter what spread formation you see. So I think it's an indication of more man coverage and a better matchup with a linebacker on a running back or a slot back.
Yeah, I like the move. Justin Garrett's a guy that was praised a lot as a star. Moves to linebacker. I think between Casanova and Chris Frost, Ellis Johnson said McKenzie, Chris Frost, and Justin Garrett are his 3 linebackers. Yeah. He didn't have any distinction between the 3. He just said they're my 3 in a rotation. So Garrett, I don't know what the rotation will be, but I think Garrett's certainly going to be in there. Nick Ruffin, as a true freshman, has played well at star. He'll be with Robinson Threese at that position. But Ellis Johnson's putting him right in there and kind of putting him in the rotation, maybe a wake-up call to McKenzie and Frost. Swain. And, of course, that means Trey Williams and Anthony Swain, who have played a lot, are kind of now going to be in the background even more so.
That goes along what he didn't want to spend a lot of time on assignments.
Right.
And when you're trying to get guys that hadn't been around very long ready to play. And I think he said enough's enough. It's time to match up, play up, man up, whatever you want to say. We're not going to spend a lot of time continuing to teach assignments.
But it's a different mentality in there for Garrett. So he's going to have to come with a different physical mindset than what he's accustomed to playing that star the last 2 years.
Yeah, and he was a headhunter in high school, but having been out a little bit, the SEC's a whole different world. It's going to be a different animal. Another guy I want to talk about is Elijah Daniel. Elijah Daniel's a sophomore defensive end, number 97, played last year as a freshman, moving inside the defensive tackle. What do you like about moving Elijah Daniel, 285, 290 pounds? 280 pounds, probably moving him inside.
It reminds me last year of moving Nosa Igwe to a 3 technique. Mm-hmm. That 3 technique at Mississippi State's the one that got up and batted the ball in the first play of the game. When you put a dynamic, quick player at 3 technique, he can create some, because he never can be double teamed. He's always going to have an outside rush on a guard, And a very active player like this means we could get more inside pressure, get things in the quarterback, get hands and movement in front of the quarterback's face.
He's got speed, and I think that's what Coach is alluding to. You're getting your best bodies out there on the field, trying to create some disruption, get some guys to wreak havoc in the backfield, and maybe this is another way to try to get some pressure from the inside on quarterbacks that we've been lacking on the outside.
Yeah, Ellis Johnson pointed out about Elijah that he's had some instances where he's lost containment. He's got 6 quarterback hurries. Gabe Wright's got 7. Neither of them have a sack.
Yeah.
They lead the team in quarterback hurries, so I guess they're doing their job. They just can't get over the hump. But I think you look at a guy like Daniel, I think moving him outside or moving him inside will help. He's kind of been that close, and so if he's that close, move him inside, allow him to come right up there and still have your speed on the outside. I think it could help. Like you said, Nosa Igwe. Of course, we always think of Jay Ratliff and how successful that move was 10 years ago when he moved in and was undersized and wreaked havoc and ends up having a pro career forever and ever. So Rodney just thought moving Elijah Daniel inside would be a good move. The third guy that made it a move and is it a really interesting move is Brandon King, who's played star and safety for Auburn, is now going to be a rush defensive end in a lot of third down situations. What do you make of Brandon King? Here's a solid tackle, boom, in the LSU game, but a safety.
The most textbook tackle.
Yeah, but a safety playing defensive end. What can he accomplish?
I don't know. I mean, in my mind, it's all about just trying to get some pressure from the edges. And the lack of production in that category has sort of, them scouring their personnel. Who can we put in a position to make some plays? And he fits the bill. He's a big guy. I mean, he could probably play several different positions, but defensive end, would I have ever thought that? No.
Yeah. He recovers this fumble in Mississippi State.
So you hope it's not an act of desperation, trying to find somebody to get out there and make some plays. But I think it's just them trying to get personnel groupings out there that's going to make it difficult for these offensive lines to block.
I think both these moves, and this one to me is the most important one, allow us to build around a 4-man pass rush instead of continuing to rely on the blitz to get pressure on a quarterback.
Yeah.
So I think it is a third down package, and I think it will be highly successful.
Well, I guess he's obviously going to be third and long, or really the only times you're going to see him. Definite passing situations. What's the biggest adjustment? Obviously, if it's just a couple downs, it might just be, hey, just get off the ball and go. I mean, there's not a lot of hand fighting they're going to be asking him to do. Just get out, get around the corner, force him up, and allow your other guys to do their job. But is he a huge difference maker? Or is this just a little something?
They've seen it in practice, Weston. They've seen something that we hadn't seen.
Right.
Pass rush is so instinctive.
Well, they don't see a pass rush is what
they see something in him, obviously, that looks like he can be instinctive on a 6'6", 315-pound guy that's set back with his arms out, be able to slap hands, jerk, rip, explode his hips, be able to dip his hips and turn his shoulders. Those are the kind of things that I have not seen from a defensive end this whole year. And if they've seen it at practice, then we're going to be a better football team.
In his own blitz situation, he could drop back and actually cover his own as well. And now you've got 8 defensive backs on the field in the dime package.
You can bring the star on the blitz package, and you can replace the star who they haven't counted with him dropping off and playing the star position. And that little gadget is tough.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Brandon fits into things and how he's able to help that Auburn defense. When we get back, the SEC West is dominating college football. We discuss it on Auburn Intel. Welcome back into tonight's show. The SEC West is the most dominant division in college football, placing 4 teams inside the top 5 in the nation in the AP and Coaches poll. First time ever a conference has placed 4 teams inside the top 5, let alone one division in Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Alabama, and Auburn. Auburn still has 3 of those teams left on their schedule, 2 of them on the road, including trips to Georgia and home games against South Carolina and Texas A&M. There's no question the SEC West is the best division in college football, and what Auburn has left, guys, is absolutely brutal, not just from a West standpoint, but from an overall standpoint. Like I said, with a road game at Georgia, who I mentioned last week is getting hot, and they are playing good football, and they're going to beat Florida and Kentucky. They're going to enter in that Auburn game extremely confident and hot. But what do you make of the rest of Auburn's schedule and more specifically the West and for these teams being so good at the exact same time?
I think that there's a lot of quality coaching staffs in this side of the conference. You know, I think a lot of it has to do with the recruiting. These guys being able to have time to build to their needs. If you look at Dan Mullen at Mississippi State, he would have never been given the time at an Auburn or an Alabama with the records he's had over the past couple of years, but they stayed patient with him. He got some guys in that are talented, and you're seeing the fruits of that pay off now. I think that as far as the schedule goes, the biggest the difference and the reason why Auburn's path is so difficult is because there's 5 teams ranked in the top 10 in the SEC right now. And Auburn is the only team that will play all of the other teams that are ranked in the top 10. And not only do they play them, but they play them all on the road.
Yeah,
so they're at a disadvantage, not in the fact that they're going to cannibalize each other on this side of the conference, but who do you play on the other side of the conference? When you look when it's at Georgia and it's against South Carolina, but you're looking at a Mississippi State playing against Kentucky and Vandy, well then there's a big disparity there that makes this path much more difficult for Auburn.
Close games is what I see. I see 4-quarter games, whose quarterback can play without making a big mistake in the game. And I think it's going to be a battle of quarterbacks. And Dak Prescott was better than our quarterback on that day. You know, and I think every one of these games is whose quarterback plays the best. Somewhat of that depended on what kind of pressure he has to deal with from the defense. But the other thing in this is the kicking game. And I think at Auburn right now, there's 4 cylinders. We're hitting on 2 of them, 3 every once in a while. And I think what this is going to boil down to is who can, in these really tight games, is whose quarterback can keep from beating them and I think the quarterback at Ole Miss is going to turn into one game where he's just going to get them beat. Maybe 2 of these he's going to get them beat. I don't think he's capable of sustaining that level of play. But the other thing is their kickers, the kick returners. I mean, we're out of a game because we fumbled a kickoff return.
Right.
And if you just go from beginning, and we're miss a field goal, which had a great emotional impact on our team when we missed that first field goal. These kickers and these kick returners and these guys that are covering these kicks, they're going to be able to keep the games tight all the way to the end. And if any of them, and we lost the Florida State game because we give up a fake punt and a kickoff return. And all we've got is that caliber of game coming at us with all the rest of these people. And the place you break down in these games is the quarterback making a critical error and the kicking game letting you down. That's how you lose them. Otherwise, if they don't, we'll win them.
Yeah, and you also have to point to Brett Bielema when he comes to this conference. I think that's probably why the West has risen because of his injury.
Yeah, Bielema.
Of course, I'm just kidding. But
King of the moral victory.
You're old school. Huh?
But see, one of the tough things that for Auburn is, and every year playing on the road is hard. But in years where everybody's good, it's near impossible. I mean, when you go on the road in the SEC, it's tough. Even if you play a team that ends up 7-5, 6-6, it's going to be tough. But when you're all really good,
but if you look at the history of some of these trips,
and Auburn's are all on the road.
We used to play better at Georgia than we did play Georgia at Auburn.
That kind of stopped happening for a while.
And Alabama and Auburn has that little bit of that. So some of these on the road things can roll a little differently than just being at home.
True, and I say that, and LSU got stomped at home to Mississippi State, but you look at A&M going to Starkville, at Auburn going to Starkville, losing big. Bama goes to Ole Miss, loses.
Well, but part of that is because
Ole Miss won at A&M, so maybe I'm
part of that is because the team in Starkville and the team in Oxford are pretty good teams.
Right, exactly.
But I think going on the road sometimes is actually an advantage for teams. It all depends on how you start. Yes. And when you start like you did in Starkville, you're going to dig a hole you can't climb out of.
You got to get off to a good start on the road.
But the ability to rally around your teammates in that environment, there's nothing like it. Playing at home, you can't duplicate that.
I was looking at an ESPN Power Index. They do their own rankings. They have Auburn still the #1 team in the country, but they give Auburn a 4% chance of winning out.
Beginning to look a lot like this.
It's going to be tough. See, what I was going to say was
toughest schedule in the country. Played up, kept playing up, playing up, and at the end, the New York Times, which has turned into the polls that we look at now, said it was the best team. I don't think any of those teams are better than Auburn that we're looking at.
Right.
I don't think any of them are better than Auburn. It's a close enough game that we better have the kicking game and the quarterback play to win them.
If Auburn wins out, doesn't win the division though. Let's say Mississippi State just wins out as well. Does Auburn get in the playoff? They deserving? They don't win the division.
They get in.
Oh yeah, there's absolutely running that schedule.
Yeah.
That gauntlet is the most difficult in college football at the moment. So absolutely.
And they're getting credit for it, and that's what I like.
Yeah, I mentioned the ESPN Power Index. They're #1 in the country still, and their ranking, they take into account schedule and some other factors. But they also give you a percentage on chances of winning out, and they give Auburn the lowest chance of anybody in the top 10 of winning out, and they predict the most losses. They predict Auburn to end up 9-3. They've got 1.
Because of what we've talked about, the fact that they are the only team that has to go outside of the West and play Georgia. They're the only team that plays all of these games on the road. I mean, of course they're going to say that because of where these games are played.
It'll flip. A couple years, Auburn, you'll look at it, and Auburn will have the easy schedule. It just kind of happened this way. I mean, it's not, nobody's out to get Auburn. Georgia just makes things more difficult. If Mississippi State and Ole Miss are going to be good, Auburn doesn't need that. They already do have to play Georgia.
But Georgia may be playing better than anybody at this point.
Yeah, they might be.
Yeah, they're absolutely playing great.
Yeah.
When we get back, we're going to close out the show with a little segment we like to call Closing Time. Welcome back into Auburn Intel. This is the last segment of the night, a segment we like to call Closing Time. Rob's going to kick it off.
After watching Florida State coach Jimbo Fisher carelessly tell Jameis Winston as the microphones had moved in to not be himself, but to put on a subdued, humble performance immediately following their thrilling win over Notre Dame was pathetic. Jimbo Fisher shouldn't be telling his star quarterback to be something he's not in order to, quote, get people back on your side. The interchange made me feel dirty. It cast Jimbo as a hypocrite, Jameis as a fraud. At this point, who cares, Jimbo? You simply turn a blind eye to every objectionable action Winston makes. Why ask him to be someone he's not on a national stage? What Jimbo Fisher should be doing is holding his player to a higher standard. He should be making life miserable right now for a talented kid and helping mold him into a man. Instead, he coddles and consoles. He excuses and justifies. Playing football at Florida State should be a privilege. Putting on the garnet and gold should come at a high price to those willing to pay it. The Jameis and Jimbo show would embarrass me if I were an alum and infuriate me if I were a player in that program. Older generations constantly scold younger ones for lacking motivation, wherewithal, integrity, discipline. Jimbo is showing the world just exactly why generations of kids remain kids into adulthood, and it's a shame.
Great take, Rob. Read more of Rob's takes at auburnundercover.com. Jack, you're up.
I want to share some thoughts I had with Bo Jackson a few weeks ago. He was playing golf, and I was just riding a cart with him. And he talked about the aspect of recruiting today, asked me some questions about it. It's so intense, it's so long now, there's a tendency of coaches to recruit players as a friend instead of an authority figure. And everybody has to do it, and it's just part of the game. But what some coaches forget is after you do that, you've got to de-recruit them. And what we're talking about now, to me, is just an incidence of that. I mean, recruit a great player, get them, but you got to de-recruit them.
De-recruit, that's a great one as well. Auburn junior receiver Sammy Coates could have done anything with his time off this weekend. Tigers head coach Gus Malzahn gave the players the weekend off and allowed them the chance to go home and be with their families or simply sit on the couch inside their dorm room and watch television. Coates did go and be with family, but it's not the family you think. Coates spent his Friday night in Birmingham at Children's Hospital with a 12-year-old leukemia patient named Kinsey Ray and her family. Coates and Ray met each other outside Jordan-Hare Stadium in 2013 after a football game. Coates, a well-known football player, and Ray, an adoring fan. Since, the two are inseparable. They've become family. Coates and Ray have become best friends, texting each other every day. Recently, Ray's bone marrow transplant didn't have the desired effect on her cancer, and it remains. Ray's mother calls Coates her daughter's inspiration. Coates considers Ray his inspiration. Many football players today are self-absorbed and mostly worried about their image, rather than the thousands of fans they impact with every action and every word. In Coates, it's refreshing to see an unselfish act in a selfish world.
Attaboy, Sammy.
Attaboy, Sammy. One of the good ones.
Yes.
Appreciate everybody joining us for tonight's episode of Auburn Intel. Game Day Bunker, real quick. You guys are going to be where for the South Carolina game?
Going to be at Rogue Tavern with our Greater Birmingham Auburn Club.
Yep. Fantastic venue. Come join us if you're not going.
Yeah, Rogue Tavern, GameDayBunker.com. You can watch it at GameDayBunker.com, AuburnUndercover.com as well. You can find both those things on Saturday as Auburn plays South Carolina at 6 o'clock. ESPN2, I don't even remember. It's the SEC Network. Yeah. What am I talking about? I got so many times and TV things going through my head. Auburn and South Carolina on the SEC Network. Everything goes to plan. They'll play Ole Miss on ESPN the next night. So it'll be fun.
Yeah.
It'll be a good game.
To it.
Any predictions?
I think we're going to win every time we play.
Win big?
No, I don't think.
Two touchdowns?
No.
Less. 10.
Yeah, 10.
I say 2 touchdowns.
I say 21.
Wow.
I say 3 touchdowns.
Yeah. You've been to Auburn and visited.
Yeah,
You've got some inside information.
I
You
don't
haven't
got
told us
anything.
about.
I got nothing.
Come on,
I got
come
nothing.
on out with it.
I don't have it.
Okay.
I got nothing. Appreciate everybody joining us. Till next time.
War Eagle.
War Eagle.